Something weird is going on with billionaire fashion. We talk a lot about fashion on this channel, so I figured it was about time we talk about the opposite of that, billionaire fashion. I don't like it. You know, a lot of billionaires and hundreds millionaires, is that a word? Have been cozying up to fashion houses, designer brands, and really feeling themselves lately. You know, I talked about Mark Zuckerberg appearing front row with his wife at the Prada show, Brian Johnson actually walking the runway with materies fecales. Every time I say that, I feel like I'm screwing something up. Lauren Sanchez Bezos cuddling up to a bunch of fashion brands and really being welcomed by a lot of those fashion brands, front row seating for her and Jeff. And he's not a billionaire, but even Kevin O'Leary just wearing the most ridiculous shit I've ever seen in my life. It's a very interesting phenomenon because in the past, the wealthiest members of society actually try to kind of hide their wealth. So it makes me wonder culturally, politically, economically, what is happening that's making these guys want to peacock so much more than they have in the past? What does it all mean, and who's the best at it? I don't know, maybe I'll do a little ranking. But before I start breaking it down, if you haven't subscribed to the channel yet, please do. This is John's Addiction. My name's Matt. We like fashion over here, folks. Hit that subscribe button. It takes like 2 seconds. It's the easiest thing in the world. Don't tell me you got a finger injury, all right? That's BS. Enough of that, let's get into it. So, you know, what's kind of funny is this is a real be careful what you wish for moment. Because for years, I always thought it was a little weird that the Zuckerbergs of the world decided to dress themselves in a plain t-shirt and jeans. For a while, it was like kind of a meme with him because he had like a closet full of the same, I think it was some like ridiculously expensive t-shirt too. It was like a Xenia something. I'll try and find what it is, but it was like a $450 t-shirt, but he had tons of them and that was his uniform. He wore it all day. And that's really like, for a while, that was kind of the culturally acceptable thing for like major tech CEOs or whatever to do, was like to have a uniform. I think it kind of started with Jobs, honestly. Because Steve Jobs had the, you know, like Levi's 501 with a black turtleneck fit. And that's the thing he wore all the time. That was cool, whatever. It was kind of a low key, it was a vibe. It was kind of, you couldn't really criticize it other than being boring. It was just like, yeah, it's just what he wears, whatever, it's fine. And Zuckerberg, I think, is kind of a chameleon in the sense that he just kind of leeches off of other people's ideas and things. He probably just wanted to be another Jobs, so he just like copied that. And that always kind of bugged me because I'm like, you're like one of the richest guys in the world, and you're not going to do anything with it? What's the point of having all that money if you don't use it, you know? And not everyone's into fashion, but like, you know, I always looked at like Jack Dorsey, the Twitter guy, who, if you don't know, is a secret Rick head. I don't think he does it as much anymore, but for a while there, he was like decked out in Rick every day. And I was always like, I always had a little bit of weird respect for that. Like, that's what I would do, man. I would just be draped in Rick. And also Dorsey, you know, divorced himself, more like Jack Divorcey from Twitter. So whatever, he's allowed to have his day in the sun. I think he's doing some other psycho stuff right now. But, you know, that always made so much more sense to me to like, at least, you know, if you're going to be a hawkish, evil billionaire, at least buy yourself some nice things and be cool about it. But like I said, this is be careful what you wish for, because I don't know if you've seen Zuck lately, but he's feeling himself. He's done this whole like streetwear pivot where he's wearing like oversized t-shirts, kind of a Balenci vibe, honestly. Dumb necklaces, and he's got his broccoli haircut and thick framed glasses. And like, when I first saw it, I actually did have like a pang of respect for it, because I was like, all right, you're doing the thing. You're living your life and actually like expressing yourself a little bit. But as time went on and I started to see it more and more, it became disturbing to me. And I don't like it. So like I mentioned in the intro, the ultra wealthy, you know, traditionally would try to kind of obfuscate, I use that word too much, would try to kind of blend in a little bit more with society, or at least not like peacock to such a degree. And, you know, call it what you will, stealth wealth, whatever. There's a phrase, wealth whispers, right? You're not supposed to be so flashy. And people will often put up like visuals like, here's a rich guy, and he looks totally modest, like, you know, Warren Buffett driving a old Toyota or whatever the hell he drives. And then they'd compare it with like, this guy's broke, and he'd be decked out in LV or whatever. To some extent, I understand what they're saying. You know, if you blow all your money on status symbols, you have nothing left over for yourself. But the ultra wealthy, they've never really had that problem, right? They live in a different world than we do. But it was more about practicality. Like, you didn't want to flaunt your wealth because someone might come up and kill you unalive you. I don't know, am I going to get in trouble for saying killed? No, but like if you were walking around the street, I mean, and somebody sees you wearing a Rolex, there's a good chance they might try and snatch it off your wrist. Or if they just know that you're like an oil magnate or something, they might try and steal your kid or something. You know what I mean? There was a self-preservationist angle to not being so flashy with your wealth. What's interesting to me about it, and maybe I should get into this a little bit later, but I'm going to talk about it now. It's my channel. I can do what I want. Billionaires and multimillionaires, whatever, used to feel, or it seems like they used to be more tethered to the public good, the public society. And by that I mean, you know, you probably have famous rich people in your town who have like built libraries or museums, public works projects, which they put their name on, but they, you know, contributed their vast sums of money in part to creating things for the public good, right? And I've noticed a kind of weird, disturbing trend where that doesn't seem like it's happening as much anymore. You know, the Elon Musks of the world, maybe I'm ignorant, but I really don't see him creating like libraries or whatever. The Musk, you know, Center for Scientific Progress. It seems more like the billionaires in general are retreating more into themselves and becoming more insular and just building giant, you know, displays of wealth for themselves. Or like, you know, Bezos going to the space or whatever, you know, a little vanity project. And that's a really disturbing trend, I think. And I kind of think they're linked in a way. These kind of vulgar displays of wealth. Because if they no longer care about flaunting wealth in their fashion, their style, their outward projections of their own status, they also don't care about, you know, sprinkling some crumbs for the rest of us. And I kind of want to get into why that is. You know, another one was always Bezos for me. He was like the richest man in the world for a while, or close to it. And he was just some boring dude, you know? It didn't seem like he really felt himself in that way. And again, that feels like it's pivoted significantly. You know, not so much in the fashion space, but just in the like mega yachts, the trophy wife, going to space thing. And again, there's a little pang I have of like, okay, respect. Game recognized game. Because again, I don't see the point in amassing the wealth of the world, you know, without doing something with it. Again, you can't take it with you. You can certainly give it to your horrible spawn, but I think there needs to be a give and take, right? The mega yachts or whatever need to come with build a new museum for the plebes out there. And I'm just not seeing this happening. Another one I touched on is Kevin O'Leary, and my God. He really, you know, again, he's not a billionaire, but he's like worth 400 million or something like that. He maybe disturbs me the most because at least Zuck is like, I don't know, I can see something there. And Brian Johnson actually got some respect for walking with fecal matter because, like, that's a statement. But Kevin, this is some of the worst stuff I've ever seen in my life. Truly disturbingly bad. Rivaling, like, Jordan Peterson with his, like, weird blue and red suit that's, like, half and half. A lot of these guys, I think, I miss when wealthy people used to have taste. And I genuinely think they did. Like, there was a part of being high status that you had a sense of like class about you and an understanding of like what is tasteful. And that just seems to have gone completely out the window. So let's talk a little bit about why I think this is happening. I think a lot of it is, I hate to say social media, but I think that is part of it. The idea of personal branding has really come into play, I think, with the social age. So I think that's what I'd kind of pin it on, is this idea that you yourself are a brand. I think Zuckerberg is a really good kind of like case study for all this, because I think he kind of represents everything that we're talking about, and we can kind of disperse that through all the other billionaires through his lens. Because back in the day, I think he used to see, he's like, I'm the CEO or whatever of Amazon, so I need to reflect my outward projection as that company. And I think he's shifted that mindset to be, oh no, I am a brand in and of myself, so I need to brand myself. I also think he probably somewhere deep down acknowledges that he used to be just a weirdo, right? Like a reptilian weirdo with the strange Julius Caesar haircut and the just pallid lizard-like look. I mean, if there was ever a person who was a reptilian, it's him. We got him, folks, you know? And so I think to some extent he's trying to downplay that a little bit and appear to be a normal human being. And boy, he just can't do it now, can he? Did you see that interview with him where he was like talking about whether or not he drinks coffee, and he was just like, no. And he just shook his head for like 2 minutes. Very strange individual. But, you know, I think because of that, that's what I find so disturbing about the whole thing, is fashion is your personal style. It's a statement about identity. And it's so, there's something, again, so reptilian about Zuckerberg taking that and being like, okay, I need to calculate what my outward projection needs to be so that people see me as a normal person. You know what I mean? Like making calculations about what your fashion statement is going to be that's going to make you more relatable to people. I would like to think everyone sees through that. And I think people have. And again, you can branch that out to the other people like Kevin O'Leary. Do I think he actually likes looking like that or whatever? I don't know. I think he's trying to do like a Gary V type thing where he's like, oh, look at, he's like faking it until you make it with like how ostentatious he's being outwardly. It's like now part of his personal brand. He was always like a brash D-bag on Shark Tank, and now he's like trying to express that through his fashion or something. Again, to go back to Dorsey, like I actually have respect for him because I feel like he did it before everyone else because it wasn't cool then or like as acceptable to be a CEO of a tech company or whatever wearing kind of weird avant-garde stuff. He seemed to genuinely do it for a love of the game. And these other guys, it just feels completely cynical to me. Bezos is having fun. You know, again, that's where there's a little part of me that's like, okay, you know, do your thing, buddy. But at the same time, maybe throw us a bone. Build something. Put your name on something. Elon Musk is terrible. He's terrible in general. We all know it. He's a cringe human being that stinks. But I don't know how much he's trying to do fashion. I think maybe his taste is just bad, right? You know, I've seen him wear like stupid hats with like blazers with like a t-shirt on underneath it. It kind of doesn't make sense. It's hard for me to even comment on in that way. But certainly it's not good. I also may blame part of this on streetwear becoming kind of the mainstream de facto language of fashion, right? At least for a while there. I feel like, as we've talked about on this channel, streetwear is kind of, I don't want to say dead, but like certainly fallen off from the luxury houses. They're now much more into stealth wealth, if you know, minimalism. That's certainly come back into the mainstream. And you know, sneakers and all that stuff have kind of died off. And of course, like I said, this new crop of billionaires, they're out of touch. So I think what they think of as like what's in now with the kids and it's going to win them over is streetwear when they don't realize that it kind of is on its way out. They're always going to be like 5 years behind the times. You know what I mean? I guess what I find particularly odd in all this is, as we've discussed, wealth inequality, the K-shaped economy, whatever you want to call it, the rich get richer, the poor get poorer. And wealth inequality seems to be getting worse. There's a bigger and bigger gap between the haves and have-nots. So you would think because of that, you would actually be seeing the opposite in what billionaires are doing. You'd think you'd see more of a return to modesty and trying not to draw the ire of the public. But in fact, you're seeing exactly the opposite. So it seems to be a contradiction. What I fear is that the billionaires, the billionaire class, the 1%, no longer fears the public. I think there was in the past like a fear that they might like rise up and dethrone us, if you will. Take that whatever that means to you. I think maybe though now they no longer have that fear, which to me is not the best thing, because you'd always like to think that if inequality gets bad enough, there's always the public option. Man, I'm going to get in trouble for this video. No, there's always a Marie Antoinette style trying to get around this. Ability for the people to seize back power by sheer mass and force alone. And if the billionaires no longer are afraid of that, then what do they know that we don't? Again, to touch back on Elon Musk building cars that can withstand, bullets and rocks being thrown at them, albeit poorly because he doesn't know what he's doing. And you hear more and more about like bunkers that the rich are building. So I think in the background they're maybe preparing for that eventuality, but outwardly they seem to almost be rubbing it in our faces. So it's a very weird bellwether for what is happening politically and economically that billionaires are feeling like peacocking in this way. Again, I do think their motivation is personal brand, but A, their personal brand and their tastes suck, and B, it just feels really out of step and tone deaf with what's happening in the rest of the country, especially with people getting more and more angry that they can't afford luxury goods in the first place. Again, that's kind of why I liked Brian Johnson walking for fecal matter, because it almost felt like he was self-aware of that. And like, hey, I'm the billionaire in question with this 1% show. Go ahead and throw the tomatoes at me. I mean, I think it's part and parcel with the wealthy becoming more separated from the rest of society because they are losing touch with what is normal. You know, I outlined the scenario at the beginning that like someone would steal your Rolex on the street. How often are these billionaires interacting with the public? I think that might be actually part of the issue, is that they're so detached at this point that it's really not a concern for them. In what scenario would someone even have a chance to like accost them in that way? You know, probably not super likely. The people who are more like influencers or something are probably more at risk of something like that. So I don't know if I have any great answers. It's something that's been bugging me, and I kind of wanted to talk about why it's happening and just kind of be annoyed by it. Have you guys noticed this trend too? And what do you think about it? What am I missing here? Does it bother you like it bothers me? Who is the worst example? For me, it might be Kevin. It stinks. It's both ostentatious and bad. Come on, get a stylist. You know, is that so hard? You can't be don't be your own stylist. Who's the worst offender? Let me know in the comments. Have you noticed this? Where do you think it's coming from? And do you think it's likely to get better anytime soon? I don't know. Just a quick fun one today. Like I said, subscribe if you haven't yet. Leave a like if you liked the video, or if you didn't. What's it matter to you, right? And do post a comment, because this is one of those ones that I'm scratching my head over a little bit. I want to hear from you guys. And yeah, that's going to do it for today. So have a good one, guys. I'll catch you in the next one.